It's around lunchtime and you just woke up. You don't even know what day it is. As you check your phone, you realize it's April 1st. Almost 2 weeks since the lockdown started. At the back of your mind, you hope this is one big April Fool's joke. But it's not. After tossing and turning for an hour or so, you decide to finally get up. I mean, it's not like anyone's in a rush. As you make yourself a hot cup of coffee, you start thinking of how you'd spend the day. For you, it hasn't been as productive as you would have hoped. There hasn't been much to do, and work for most has been either suspended or, if you're lucky, you're working from home. And you kind of miss it somehow. You know, it's already bad when you start missing physically going to work. Maybe even being stuck in traffic. You remember the days you took for granted. When you had a choice to go out. To go to the beach. Or the mall. Anywhere. And guess what? Sometimes you were too lazy. And instead you chose to stay at home. You'd pay to have those days back. So far, it's been disappointing. Some people are oblivious to the magnitude of what's happening, and some are just too arrogant to care. And as desperation sets in, the toxicity of politics and society is mounting. Everyone's pointing fingers and looking for someone to blame. And with the news of how the air is suddenly so much cleaner, mountain ranges being seen from hundreds of miles away, even turtles laying eggs in beaches unbothered for the first time in hundreds of years, you realize how toxic humans can really be. And you wonder, maybe we are the problem. It's mid-April, and nothing has gone according to plan. The quarantine is extended for another 2 weeks. Total time so far? 1 month. Although experts say that by that time, it's highly unlikely things would be any different. And as people come to terms with the reality of what's happening, they turn their attention inward. Nowadays, it seems like everyone's up to something. And the illusion of having so much time makes people think that it's wrong to be sitting around. Although not all would agree. And as you take a sip of coffee, you think to yourself, I wonder how I'll spend my day. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the second episode of So You Think You Can Lead. Thank you for the awesome support and feedback from the first episode, and I'll try my best to keep it going. And hopefully you like this episode as well. It's been a tough couple of weeks so far. The community quarantine that was hastily and carelessly implemented proved to be challenging, and it led to an apparently much stricter lockdown. And although there were other cities that were successful, most of the country hasn't figured it out yet, and right now the COVID cases in the Philippines just reached over 6,000 plus. And just a couple of days ago, we were number 1 in Southeast Asia. Of course, that's not something to be proud of. The predicament of a lot of citizens hasn't been ideal, and as much as we would want to help in our own way, we must be realistic and understand that we don't have the capacity to help everyone. Although one of the things we can do instead is to hopefully improve in some aspects of our lives. As leaders, this is important because we have to keep ourselves motivated and inspired for the people who look up to us, for the people who look to us for strength and stability. And the amount of time we have on our hands is too much, even for introverts and people who used to stay at home a lot would agree. And I think the toughest part, and maybe it's not that easy to acknowledge, is the mental and emotional challenge that comes with having so much time. And today, as we put emphasis on our physical health, we must also be mindful of our emotional and mental health. And since we're still stuck and there hasn't been much opportunities to go out, to be active and lead, although there's still ways to do it, as mentioned in the first episode, for now let's turn our attention inward. And let's talk about how we can improve ourselves and be productive at our own pace. And I'd like to emphasize on the word pace and going at your own pace, right? Because productivity is subjective. Let me start off with that. Don't look at what other people are doing. Look at what you need and ask yourself what you need to get better and how to make use of your time. Because it's easy to feel some sort of anxiety when you see other people doing this and that, but whoever said it was a contest? Don't confuse productivity with busyness or being preoccupied. Because doing too much and wanting to do too much is actually counterproductive. Because you end up spending time and energy on something that adds little or no value to your life simply because it's not what you need. Reading books, working out, meditating, doing yoga, it could be great for some people. But even if you're not doing those things, that doesn't mean that you're not being as productive or you're wasting your time. It's important to ask yourself what you need from a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional standpoint, and then go from there. Setting realistic goals is also important because it will save you tons of disappointment. Again, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I know there's been countless articles about how Shakespeare wrote the play King Lear while in quarantine, and somehow this gives us the false notion that we too should be doing the same thing, or at least we're trying to create something. I mean, yeah, it's great if you do, but even if you don't, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not for everyone. And you have to ask yourself, is this pandemic really the time to get extremely productive? Or is it a time to take a break? It takes a lot of self-awareness and self-control to not fall into conformity and start doing things just because other people are doing it. You have to understand what you need and what's healthy for you. For some, maybe you've never had the time to work out or cook or learn how to play the guitar. Maybe this is the time for you to finally do it. You see that book that's been sitting on your desk for a year? Maybe it's time to read it. You've probably been putting off doing something important before because of the apparent lack of time. So what's your excuse now? On the other hand, for some people, before the lockdown, maybe you were always on the go. You were working long shifts or sometimes even working on weekends. Either that or you're stuck in traffic for hours. And now with all this time that you have, maybe what's productive for you holistically is finally relaxing, settling down and taking it easy. Maybe that's the reset that you need. But regardless of what you decide to do, it's very important to still have a plan and a clear goal of what you want to achieve. Having time without a plan is useless, no matter how much time you have. In my case, and it could be the same for some, there had been days when I would wake up late, but I'd still be productive and get things done because I had a plan, and I knew what I needed to do. On the other hand, there's been days when I'd be up as early as 4 a.m, but I'd have close to nothing done by the end of the day because I had no plan and I was just on autopilot. We've been there before, mindlessly scrolling on our phones or doing things that don't add value, and before you know it, hours have passed and you haven't accomplished anything. What can you do during this extended quarantine that will make you a better person? I don't think you'll ever get a chance to have this much free time again, ever. Unless, of course, another global crisis comes along and we're on lockdown again, but no one wants that to happen, right? It's either you decide to accomplish as much as you want, or just take time to relax and finally sit around all day. It's up to you. But it's important that you get better. Whether it's physically staying fit, mentally reading books, spiritually by praying, or emotionally by relaxing. How you do it is up to you. How you spend your time is up to you. Again, productivity is subjective. Go at your own pace and find what you need. But once you've found it, don't forget to do it. This pandemic should be a reminder of the volatility of life and how fast things can change. Time is valuable. And we owe it to society to be the best versions of ourselves once this entire thing settles down. Do you know why that's important? Somehow the world will need to get back on its feet, and it needs the best versions of you and I to help it do so. Use your time wisely. You don't have to sit around and do nothing if you're not comfortable with that, but also you don't have to come up with the next big thing. Pick up a book, or learn a new skill, or simply relax, recharge, catch up on your shows, reassess your life. Do what's best for you, whatever it is, at your own pace.
Thank you for tuning in to So You Think You Can Lead. Whether you are a part of JCI or not, I hope this podcast can be a safe space for you to learn new things and think outside the box to be of service to others. Join me again next time as we continue to find ways to create positive change in our communities. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and share. Once again, this has been Jed Manguera, the 2020 president of JCI Lipa. I'll see you again soon.